But he sort of got a little bit of maybe a kick out of that, flying lessons. So,
well, now, but there goes, you got Roy and Earl gone, and now you gone, and then you got, who's going to do the farm work?
So when I left, Curt, my younger brother Curtis, was 14 years old. He was just a kid. And Lyle was, 11 years old?
Yeah.
No, 11, 12, he's 31 to 43. He was
About 12.
12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they were old enough to drive the tractor, so they could help with them. And when you're 14, you could drive the horses and you could drive the tractor. And I did it when I was that age. So I guess probably I didn't think much of it. There's still two of them there. They can handle that farm. It wasn't like, oh, you can't. These young guys, these kids, they can't be doing anything on the farm. They just playing out in the woods. I just took for granted that when you were 14 years old, you'd be out there driving the tractor or a team of horses.
Yeah.
Or you'd be out there shocking or haying or doing something. So it wasn't like there was a big change with, personally. But for my dad, when we were farming almost 300 acres, and then when all the boys left, he just went back to farming on the home farm.
Mm-hmm.
And we rented land, farming more when we had lots. So, well, I don't know Roy, because he could have got a permit either, because he was 20. He was almost.
Passed.
He could have stretched it out a little bit more. He'd been too old for the draft.
Yeah.
Until later on in the war, maybe they started drafting when they were a little older, but first, they'd only drafted up to, I don't know where they stopped when they first started drafting.
24 or something, yeah.
They didn't expect that the war was going to last that long, so they're going to start running short of people. So they had to extend the draft age more and more to try to catch up. So that was a big part of it.
So you had.
What was the feeling of all these parents that were still there, and not only the parents, but your brothers and sisters too, of course, would be concerned.
So then, not too long after you were in there, then Curtis.
Well, it was about almost 3 years later before Curt was, when he was 17, so he was 14 when I left. So that was in 1945, so I had already been in the service for close to 3 years by the time Curtis enlisted. So then he enlisted and the war ended right at the time. They probably enlisted before the war ended in Japan.
Yeah.
And then, so he stayed in the States for quite a while, and then they went to China.
Mm-hmm.
So he spent part of his service time in Tsingtao, China, at a Marine base there when the communists and the nationalists were fighting. So then he had many experiences to tell about China. And
what did he do?
Part of the time in the Marines, he worked in a control tower at the air base.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he did quite a bit of the time. But he did get to fly the Marine airplanes, but he wasn't a regular pilot. See, he didn't finish high school. He was 17, he probably had maybe a couple of years high school. Well, you couldn't get into flight training unless you were a high school graduate at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of limited with his options there, because when he's 17, you don't have much experience, of course, but driving a tractors and working on the farm and that. So anyway, when he finished his training, I remember he said that they gave him a choice of what branch to go into, and he said the Marine officers there that spoke to him after they finished their training, they said, you can choose whatever branch of the Marines you want to go into. But he said, I'll tell you right now, no matter what you choose, you're going to end up infantry. Because that's what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So all the guys just said, well, I guess that's right, we'll just put down infantry. And I still put down aviation. Mm-hmm. So I probably was one of the only ones, so I did get into aviation, he said. Mm-hmm. They needed infantry. And the Marines needed infantry more than they needed anything else, just like the Army did at the time when I was in cadet training. They needed infantry worse than any branch they possibly could think of, you know. Mm-hmm. And they needed young people, young guys. The older guys were in the service weren't signed to infantry because